So as you saw in the intro, we went out to Bulgaria and got a result I didn't think we were capable of against Ludogorets. A 2-1 lead is slender, it's fragile, but it is a lead, and I didn't think we'd be able to get a result against them. So pretty pleased with that. However, Football Manager does have a way of creating its own beautiful narratives, because were we to beat Ludogorets, our opponents in the next round would be either Karabag or Total Network Solutions, and wouldn't it be fitting if we could set up a tie against our old foes and finally beat them? TNS, by the way, whilst we've been out there in Latvia, they've completed another full season in the Welsh top flight. Of course they won the title. They beat Haverfordwest by 9 points, but they lost a game, and joy of joys, they lost it against, yeah, you guessed it, Haverfordwest managed to beat them. So they were not able to go through a fourth campaign in a row invincible. Instead, our old favourites at Haverfordwest ended that run. Since our last episode, let's catch you up on where we've been after we won 4-3 against Maribor on aggregate. We've played 2 league games since then, and in both of them, we've rotated our first team out of the starting 11 and played our backup players, who were good enough to get a 1-1 draw against RFS. So that's a pretty pleasing performance. We did better on the XG as well. We conceded a very late equaliser. Probably should have clung on and won that game. And then sandwiched between those 2 games against Ludogorets, we played Valmiera. We beat them 1-0. Very, very tight game. Not a lot of quality from either side. But again, we weren't playing any of our big starters. So to get a victory in a game when we're rotating the squad, I guess was very pleasing, and we're not a million miles away from the end of the Latvian season now. It's going to be pretty much a parade, I think, for the rest of the campaign, although I might regret saying that. We're 17 points clear, not of RFS in second. They've lost a mammoth 6 games so far this season, whilst we remain unbeaten, just those 3 draws to blot our copybook. It's actually Auda who are in second place. 17 points is a decent gap. It means that we could win the league with maybe 5 if we keep up this, maybe 6 games to go. So we might be looking at maybe the Spartaks game, maybe the Grobanash game, where we might be able to declare ourselves Latvian champions for a 2nd season running. We've also got more news to update you on. We've completed yet another coaching course. It means that now we're in double figures for plenty of our coaching attributes. We're still a 2.5-star coach, but we went straight into the boardroom and said, how about the next rung on the ladder as well? They were only too happy to oblige, which means by the time we leave Latvia, we will have just 1 coaching qualification, the Continental Pro license, left to go for, I think. And it might mean that maybe a 2nd league title and even, dare I say it, qualification for the group stages of the Champions League before we leave. We could be a 3-star coach even. And that might mean that some interesting job opportunities might present itself to us when we decide to move on. So as we're in the back end of pre-season for most of the European leagues, there aren't any jobs available at the moment for us to show you, but some interesting ones have become available. Dinamo had a terrible time in the Croatian top division last season. I think they only finished 5th. They sacked their manager, and that was a job that maybe not our next destination, but the job after next. We could manage a club of that stature. They are a 3.5-star reputation team, so I think they're a bit out of our league at the moment. But it does bring me back to thinking about where our next stop-off might be. I think we are still 1 job away from being able to apply for the very top jobs in the leagues that we have loaded, where we might realistically be able to take a team all the way to a European final. But I'm thinking again that we might want to position ourselves in the country of the teams where we think we would have the best chance of going to a European final for our next job. So were we to say that maybe Dinamo or Hajduk, although those are the bottom 2 teams in the division right now, might be our best chances of taking a Croatian team to a European final, maybe our next job might be at one of the mid-table or lower ranked teams in that nation, where we might be able to just learn the language and improve our reputation further before trying to take on one of the big clubs in that league. Or if we decide Denmark is the destination for us, maybe it's a Brøndby that we see as taking to the European finals, then we might need to have a look at a job at maybe a Randers, a Silkeborg, maybe an Odense, so we can learn the language, prove that rep, before we then go for the big job for potentially our final job in the quest, as we try and take a club from a nation that's never produced a European finalist before, all the way to the pinnacle of continental football. But before we get to any of that, we've got to concentrate on finishing off our time in Latvia with aplomb. And to that note, we've got a few unhappy campers now. Some of the youngsters that we bought in so that we had more Latvians in the squad have started to get a little bit disgruntled about their lack of game time, despite the fact that they only came in as squad players. And I think as a squad player at 19 years old, if you've made 8 appearances in the league and 5 of them have been starts, as well as coming off the bench in the Champions League, it's not an unreasonable amount of football for a young squad player. But he's become so unhappy that he's decided that he's going to be leaving the club on a free transfer at the end of the season. And we just had a little visit from Vladimir Indrens as well. He's played 9 times this league season and as well as played in the cup. That's 10 appearances for a squad player who, granted, is making good progress, but he's become a little unhappy that he's been left out of the Champions League squad. I'm not really sure what you would expect at 20 years old. Just sit tight, pick up some league titles, force your way into the first team, and spend a bit more time at the club so you might qualify as a homegrown player before your 21st birthday. And I would have thought that would have been the strategy, but instead, he's decided that he might be considering leaving at the end of the season as well. We've even got, and we've not even shown you this player, the record signing that we made during the summer became unhappy incredibly quickly at the club. We spent a fair bit of money on Nets Imeyer. I thought was a really good little pickup. He came in for £450,000, which I know is expensive, but I thought he would be an absolutely superb signing. He didn't play very well during his early time in the first team and picked up quite a few little injuries as well that just niggled away at him and prevented his progress. He barely got fit enough to make the bench before he started complaining about his lack of game time. When we tried to reason with him, he honestly went a little bit too far. So we've slapped him on the transfer list. He's incredibly angry. No clubs have come in and made a bid for him. If we can try and recoup what we paid for him, then I think we'll be glad to see the back of him. Maybe one of the leagues that we've got loaded that are still in their transfer window might come in and make a bid for him before our season is completed. That was a bad bit of business on my behalf, but he's getting absolutely nowhere near the first team, as I don't want his unhappiness upsetting the rest of the players. For tonight's game, we've made some calls. We're going to go with Robinson as our right back rather than Fyodorovs. Neither of them are playing very well, if I'm honest. And rather than a wing back, we're going to try and play Robinson as an inverted fullback for today's game. And I think he's reasonably strong defensively, so hopefully that will work for him. We're going with a pretty tried and tested midfield 3 now. Oselins is an international midfielder who sits at the base of our triangle. Mustafic has been absolutely superb so far this season, the Bosnian, who gives us both an outlet from attacking and passing, as well as being able to win the ball back for us. And then the master craftsman, Dumbledore, who's now got 4 assists in the league and 2 in Europe, including 1 against Ludogorets in the last game. He is going to sit as the attacking midfielder, and I am starting to think that he really is developing into a decent player. Tarasovs is on the decline a little bit with his arrows, but they tend to ebb or flow, these players, a little bit. We could do with improving the training facilities even further to get the best out of these players. And then we're going to need a goal, I think, tonight, with only a 2-1 lead from that first leg. Could be Kierkegaard, could be Smolenski, it could be Diane, who notched his 5th goal in European competition this season from just 3 games. And we're hoping that the Senegalese striker might be able to get another one for us tonight as we go out there and try and beat Ludogorets and set up that next qualifying game against Total Non-Stop Solutions. So will home advantage prove to be just that in this tie? Not entirely sure. We did very well out in Bulgaria. It was a disappointment to concede late on, actually. It was another set-piece goal. So in the run-up to this game, I made sure that we trained defensive free kicks and defensive corners. Not the first time. We've looked a little vulnerable from those. Hopefully we won't get caught by one tonight, but I do think against a team as good as Ludogorets, we are going to need a goal. You got a beautiful little pick of some ironwork in our stadium there. And we are underway very early, and it is Ludogorets that have launched the first highlight. They've got the ball to Kraev. He's going to have a little strike. In fact, he's played it to Kopekti, and Dua, who was involved heavily in the first leg, has given them a strong start already. Now we've got an attacking set play of our own. Here is Bowler. He's going to send a little in-swinger. Can't beat the first man, unfortunately, but he's got the ball back. He's given it to Smolensky. And there could be a vital, crucially important goal. Smolensky has been superb since we poached him from RFS. He's played a little return pass to the corner taker, then made progress to the edge of the area. He controls the ball on his right. He strikes with his left. It's gone past Stefan Dennis in goal. And we are now 3-1 up in the tie. Another goal. And I might even make us favourites to take this to extra time. Let's see what we can do here. It's Dumbledore. He jinks inside. Is he going to have a little shot? He has. I thought he'd perhaps taken the ball a little too far and worked it onto his weaker foot. But he's forced a corner. And the last one of these worked out well for us. Yet again, we don't win the header at the near post. I think we've given away a foul in the area. Maybe it was even an offside. But if we could just score one more, that's what I want. It's just one more goal. I think we might be able to set up that tie against Total Network Solutions. But Ludogorets might have other ideas. They've got another set play, and it is just a carbon copy of the goal that they scored in the first leg. Again, it's an indirect free kick. Again, it's an outswinger. And it's gone all the way to the goal line, and they've squeezed it in from an impossible angle, despite Dua being marshalled by not one, not two, but three of our defenders, and our goalkeeper probably should have claimed it. And it's now 1-1 on the night, 3-2 on aggregate, and this game is very much in the balance going into the second half. The decision to start Sammy Robinson at right back might not have been my best work. He's got a 6.4. We're going to bring Fyodorovs on for the second half. We've given them a team talk telling them that our aggregate lead could evaporate if people don't stay focused. So I want everybody to be absolutely at it from the kickoff. And of course, that leads to a kickoff highlight probably for Ludogorets. Whenever you tell the players that you want them focused, they automatically switch off, it would seem, and the ball goes into Dua. He seems an absolute threat in the air, particularly at that far post. Maybe bringing on Fyodorovs, who is slightly taller, I think, than Robinson, might help us at that far stick, but I still think we might need another goal. Diani didn't have his best half of football in the first period, has an effort there, and I'm not even sure that's the end of the highlight, as one of our players has gone in and hacked over their opponent. Doesn't look like they've been booked. Some of their players are starting to tire a little. Maybe that will help us in the final half an hour. Abba Musa, of course, giving away a penalty is not going to help us. And now we are relying on the big keeper. He makes a strong frame in the goal, but he can't outwit his opponent. And Verdon smashes it past Matrovic. And now it is 3-3 on the night. In fact, he's gone the wrong way. It's gone straight down the middle as he gives it all diving to his right. And we're starting to look a little bit outclassed here. 8 shots to them, 4 for us. Maybe it's time to see what we've got on the bench. So we've made a couple of changes in the attacking areas as we go in search of another goal. We've brought on the Costa Rican Contreras. We've also brought on Obafemi in place of Diani up front. Maybe that pace could help us, and we are going to need it because it's now 3-1 on the night. We've been opened up in the fullback areas. Don't worry, it's been disallowed, although we were worryingly carved open there as we approach the 70-minute mark, and we really are not producing very much. We'll throw a shout out of demand more. I guess it might be in the midfield where we might make our final 2 changes just to bring on some fresh legs in the engine room. Ludogorets have not had too many attacks since we started making substitutions, but we've not done a lot this game either. When you need a goal, who do you bring on? Well, Harry Brook is probably not your first choice, but he's on the pitch anyway. Our goalkeeper has had to save us there. He has spread himself across the goal to keep Ludogorets at bay. We have been truly outclassed, I think. This is the Ludogorets I thought we would have seen in the first leg. Here is a very late set piece. We head it clear. Harry Brook jumps when the ball's nowhere near him. Ludogorets smashed the crossbar. We're just hanging on to try and get to extra time in this game. We've done that, but I am not sure we've got enough out there on the pitch to try and score a winning goal. We're going to need a rallying cry and potentially another new player on the pitch, but I am not holding out a lot of hope. So in terms of changes, we've done all we can in this game. We've made a mammoth 6 substitutions now because we've got an extra one for extra time. I'm not sure it's going to help us, though, as Ludogorets win another set play. They've sent it into the near post. We win the header that time, but the ball falls to Dua Lipa on the edge of the box, and she crashes home. Another effort. We've gone 3-1 down on the night. We were 3-1 up in this tie. Maybe I should have made changes to try and close the game down at 3-1. I thought having it on balance would have been enough, but our frailties have come to the fore once more, and now we're going to have to go for the game a little. I think we're going to have to move Fjordorevs to being a wing-back. We're going to move Tarasovs to being a complete wing-back. Spoiler alert, I don't think he can play that role very well. We'll have to push our inside forward up to attack, and we are going to go attacking as our overall team mentality. I think a goal would take it to penalties, but it's a long time since we've had an attacking highlight where we've troubled the Ludogorets keeper. I'm not sure what more we can throw at them. The cry of demand more has gone out, and that has led to a Ludogorets corner, which we've cleared, and Dumbledore is on the halfway line. He's going to need players up to support him. They're not exactly racing ahead of him here. Some tired legs, I think, at this stage of the season. Got to remember, Ludogorets are during their pre-season, so they're probably a bit fresher than us, and we are coming under pressure once more. Katz heads it to Tarasovs, who panics, tries to force the ball to the halfway line. Instead, he finds their right back, who delivers into the box. And the tie is over, and I bet you TNS win as well. They always win. And what this means for us in European competition, I haven't actually checked. I think if we'd have lost in the first round, we'd have dropped into the Europa League. Having gone forward a round, you're probably already screaming at the screen because you know what happens. I'm going to be brutally honest, I have not checked. We've been well and truly beaten tonight, 4-1 and counting on the night, undoing all of the good work that we did out there in Bulgaria. And that was a really limp performance, and we're just going to have to find out whether there's any crumbs of comfort to see whether we drop into either of the other European competitions. Well, of course they did. Yeah, not even losing 2-1 on the night at home is enough to send the New Saints out of European competition. They beat Karabag 3-2 on aggregate. They will now face Ludogorets, I think, replacing the group stages of the Champions League. The crumb of comfort for us is that we do have Europa League football. We will be taking on Dinamo Minsk across 2 legs to see whether maybe we could still make the group stages of European competition, except it won't be the Champions League. Perhaps it could be the Europa League instead.